MDS to Cerelac and Cadbury. Frequent controversies over food products. Why FSSAI should step up. Also, what are ECI's option when polling process is disrupted. And childcare is a social need, not an individual burden. Hello everyone, I am Srivastava and I am here with the 3 must-reads from the Indian Express today. आज की तारीख है April 30 और 30th April और आप सबको पता है कि ये इलेक्शन का समय है तो न्यूज़पेपर में आपको बहुत सारी न्यूज़ इलेक्शन से रिलेटेड मिलेंगी. बट इन्हीं न्यूज़ के बीच में, इन्हीं आर्टिकल्स के बीच में कुछ ऐसे इम्पॉर्टेंट आर्टिकल्स हैं जो कि आपके जनरल नॉलेज, करंट अफेयर्स, any stage of the competitive examination के लिए काफ़ी relevant हैं. There are issues which are beyond elections and therefore it's important to pay attention to such articles. So now my first pick today, जो मेरा पहला pick है, that comes from the एडिटोरियल पेज. और मैं जब एडिटोरियल पेज की बात करता हूँ तो मैं एक ऐसे इशू की बात कर रहा हूँ जो कि काफ़ी न्यूज़ में है फ्रॉम पास्ट फ्यू डेज. We are talking about the concern, the issues related to, the controversies related to the food products in India, and which is kind of showing the regulator in a food regulator, the country's food regulator, in a poor light. This is what the editorial say today, and it is talking about FSSAI. So the टाइटल इज शॉर्ट ऑन सेफ्टी और अगर आप पहली कुछ पंक्तियां पढ़ेंगे तो आपको कॉन्टेक्स्ट जो है वो पता चलेगा. So it says in the past few weeks questions have been raised about India's food safety regime in the wake of allegations against products as varied as infant food or the health drinks and spices. Now, the country's food business regulator, FSSAI, is probing charges of unhealthy sugar content in Nestlé's baby food products. The agency has also begun collecting samples of powdered spices of several brands, including market leaders like MDH and Everest, after regulatory authorities in Singapore and Hong Kong raised concern over carcinogenic additives. So you must have heard about this ethylene oxide. We have also covered it in the past. हमारे कुछ articles में भी you must have seen it. Now, so बहुत सारी countries ने और ये इस पे हमारे जो food products हैं उस पे कुछ concern raise किए हैं. Countries like you will find countries from Southeast Asian countries, you have US, you have EU, and all these things have brought FSSAI safety, which is a food safety and standards authority of India, which is a government of India body which comes under Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Please note the ministry. इसको जो है सवालों के बीच खड़ा किया है, and that is what the editorial is telling us. So if you see this paragraph which talks about FSSAI, it gives you a little picture of this body. It came into being in 2008. 2008 में ये बॉडी बनी, 2 years after the enactment of Food Safety and Standards Act. तो पहले एक्ट बना अराउंड 2006 और उसके बाद 2008 में ये बॉडी बनती है. Its remit extends to multinationals like Nestle and Cadbury, established Indian companies like MDH and Everest, and thousands of small and medium-sized food businesses who have razor-thin profit margins. तो आप इसका रेंज देखिए, मल्टीनेशनल कंपनीज हैं, आपकी जो established Indian कंपनीज हैं और छोटी कंपनियां भी हैं, वो भी इसके दायरे में आती हैं. It comes under the ambit of FSSAI. Now, what is it mandated? What is actually its work? It's mentioned that the FSSAI is mandated to educate business and consumer on food safety. It is also tasked to collect and collate data regarding food consumption, incidence and prevalence of biological risks, contaminations in food, residues of various contaminants in food products, and identify the risk. So this is what this particular body actually does. Now, there are obviously you have to understand what is an FSSAI. You have to look at the from the factual perspective what it does. But इसका जो last paragraph है ये बहुत important हो जाता है for your kind of analysis. So for example, if I ask you कि why food authority must regularly update its standards, that is one of the major question which is coming out of this issue. Last paragraph अगर आप देखें तो बोलता है कि regulations must contend with scientific uncertainty and the variance in rules amongst nations. That's why the food authority must regularly update standard and handhold exporters. The FSSAI has fallen short on both counts. That is what this editorial is saying. Now, the failure of MDH's plan to meet the US FDA's sanitary standards show that Indian regulator is in poor light. And the last line is very important. This can be, added in your answers or when you're giving interviews, that a country with a growing food market and an aspiration to increase its footprint in the global market needs a more proactive regulator. तो हमें एक proactive regulator की ज़रूरत क्यों है? क्योंकि हमारा जो food market है वो दिन पर दिन बढ़ रहा है. It's a growing food market and we have an aspiration to have a footprint in the global market. हम global market में अपनी पहचान बनाना चाहते हैं और इसलिए it's important that we have a proactive regulator with certain reforms, certain changes, it should update itself with the standards. ठीक है, तो ये तो news, ये जो editorial important जाती है with relation to various news which is coming around this particular issue. ओके, सो इस पे आप ध्यान दीजिए, इस बॉडी को, इस FSSAI के बारे में थोड़ा और जानिए. क्वेश्चंस might not come directly from the issue, but indirectly it can talk about this body. Okay, now let's come to the second pick from today. Second pick actually comes from the explained page. Now you see, sometimes in the explained page, some domain experts give their important inputs, and here we have Ravi Mittal, who is the district collector of in a district of Chhattisgarh. He has kind of written and explained for us, which says repolls and adjournments, ECI's options when polling process is disrupted. Now, why is this particular article important? Because the Election Commission of India declared April 19th voting void in 11 polling stations of Manipur and 8 polling stations of Arunachal Pradesh. Now, repolls were conducted. After the death of a candidate on April 9, polls were adjourned in Madhya Pradesh, Betul Lok Sabha constituency. Voting will now take place on May 7 instead of April 26 as originally planned. Now, इंडिया में जो इलेक्शन लॉज हैं वो एक फ्रेमवर्क प्रोवाइड करते हैं फॉर हैंडलिंग सिचुएशंस इन विच जो नॉर्मल पोलिंग प्रोसेस है वो एडजर्न होता है. Now there are 2-3 incidents when such things can happen. One, when there is a destruction and hijacking of EVMs. Then there is a booth capturing. Okay, now booth capturing is also defined under section 135A of the RPA, which includes all or any of the following activities like seizure of a polling station affecting the conduct of election, taking possession of polling station, allowing only his or their supporters to vote, intimidating or threatening any elector and preventing them from going to the polling station, seizure of a counting place affecting the counting of votes, and involvement of any person in government service in any of the above activities. इसके साथ साथ there can be some unforeseen situations like a natural calamity, there can be interruption or obstruction due to any riot, or non-arrival of the polling party due to obstruction of or any other serious difficulty, and so on and so forth. If there is also a death of a candidate, so the RPA, which is the Representation of People Act 1951, it provides certain important adjournment rules there also, that as per section 52 of the RPA amended in 1996, the poll shall be adjourned only in the case of the death of a recognized political party's कैंडिडेट। नाउ यहाँ पे आपको समझना चाहिए कि recognized political party क्या होती है। तो recognized political party refers to either a recognized national party or party recognized as a state party in the state concerned, for which the ECI reserves a symbol under the election symbols reservation and allotment order. Now I know you must be wondering कि एग्ज़ाम के लिए क्या क्या इंपॉर्टेंट है यहाँ पे। सी यू शुड नो दैट हु इज़ द PO और हु इज़ द polling officer, who is the returning officer, all right, and importance of your RPA, Representation of People's Act 1951. It lays down so many rules and allows rules for adjournments also. So ये सारी जो चीज़ें आपको थोड़ा बहुत इसके बारे में knowledge होनी चाहिए. Of course, I hope the time will come when you take up, such responsibilities of getting the free and fair elections conducted. So you should, before that, you should have a little bit of knowledge about how things happen on the ground. और इसलिए आपको ये article पढ़ना चाहिए, which is written by none other than the expert who is a district collector at Chhattisgarh. Now let's come to the last pick of the today. My last pick actually comes from the ideas page, and there is a very important question which the author is asking. The author is Ashwini Deshpande, who is a professor of economics and founder director of CEDA at Ashoka University, and these views are personal but it tells us a lot. Who takes care of a child? Okay, that is a major question, and the title is Mom, Baby and Us. The very two lines of the excerpt says that constitutional rights of working mothers is only be realized by investing in care economy and emphasizing that child care is a social need, not an individual burden. Now, child care is one of the most important issues when we talk about social issues and related to women, which women and child and also father, okay, the parents as all. Now if you see the first paragraph, it sets the tone. It says which parent is primarily responsible for the hands-on work that goes on raising children until they are adults. In India, like elsewhere in the world, it is typically the mother. The central government has a child care leave, that is CCL policy, which allows for 730 days of paid leave to female employees during the entire service period for taking care of a maximum of 2 children under 18 years. This is, however, this is over and above maternity leave. Okay, so maternity leave के ऊपर है ये. Now ये सवाल क्यों उठ रहा है? Because recently a government employee in Himachal Pradesh was denied this CCL. The Supreme Court declared this denial as a violation of working women's constitutional right. तो इस वजह से ये ज़्यादा न्यूज़ में आ गया है फिर से. Now there's this very important paragraph which raises certain questions, and it says there are several questions that this episode raises which highlights the complications inherent in this policy. If this is a constitutional right, should this central provision not be binding on the states? And why is this provision applicable only to government employment, unlike maternity leave? Would making this mandatory in the private corporate sector worsen employer bias against women? That is, would they be less likely to hire a woman? Finally, how many establishments have the bandwidth to implement this? And in all this light, it is important to understand what is Maternity Benefit Act, or also, you can also, in relation to this, you can also look into the economic census, where 98% firms are micro and have less than 10 employees. Now, so the Maternity Benefit Act is very much related to it, because it says that it is applicable to the establishment with 10 or more employees. तो ऐसे बहुत सारे institutions हैं जहाँ पे their employees are less than 10. Now, there is a very interesting paragraph which is also in block, which talks about 3R framework, which you can use in your social issues, essays वगैरह में, interviews में, या जो भी topic इससे related आए. So the 3R's framework show the way forward, recognize, reduce and redistribute the responsibility of childcare. Today's childcare are tomorrow's workforce, and therefore childcare is a social responsibility. We need to recognize the childcare consists of a set of multiple, complex, daily, repetitive, physical and emotional tasks that mothers perform. over and above all the myriad other daily work tasks. Recognitions will make the issue visible. So it's an important paragraph. It can be noted down somewhere in your notes. You can reproduce in your answers, or use it in your interview, the 3 R's framework. Now that's all from me today. Please go through the newspaper, write to me what are your important 3 reads from the Indian Express today. Write to me at manas.srivastava@indianexpress.com. So think smart, work hard, conquer your goal. Bye-bye.